Well, a quick response before we get in on that devaluation of the Naira matter. Yakubu, that is written in because earlier on we did say something about the airports, going by complaints from one of our viewers who are presently stranded at the airport. His reason is that the delay in clearance of some goods at the cargo shed was caused by a fracas between the customs and the clearing agents, and that the authorities have since intervened and operations are being restored. On the conveyor belts, he says, well, they are undergoing routine maintenance presently, and to make them more effective in preparation for the Christmas and the New Year. And he says a fan will ensure that all of that is done pretty soon. And he also apologized for the inconvenience that has caused those who have sent in their messages. Well, joining us to look at the devaluation of the Naira is an economic analyst, Bayo Rotimi. Good morning and thanks for joining us. All of this doesn't really make sense to the average Nigerian. The average Nigerian understands just one thing: things may be, getting worse for him or her. What does this mean when we talk about the devaluation of the Naira? Let's break it down and see if we can actually make some meaning out of it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to just backtrack a little bit.
Please do.
How did we get to where we are? And the reason why we're at this pass today essentially is, for a very long time, our economy has focused on one singular product. The bulk of our foreign exchange earnings have come from one product. This is a product that we do not control the price, and we really do not control the volume that we put out of there. So what has happened is, when the buyers of our crude oil come up with alternatives, the United States, that used to be the largest purchaser of Nigerian crude, had signaled and given us notice a long time ago. We have found alternative sources to your crude oil, and we will stop buying from you in the course of time. Now, so this is something that has been a long time in coming, and it has finally happened, and it seems like we're a bit reactive. I would have expected for us to be a lot more proactive. The United States gave us enough signal. Government says, well, if the U.S. is not buying our oil, maybe we will look into other places such as Asia, China. But do you know that the Chinese actually have shale oil deposits that are even in excess of what America has? So it is really high time we go back to the basics. We looked for ways to restructure and reorganize our economy. Because if your foreign exchange earnings is dependent on largely one a commodity that you have no control over its pricing. Now, if that price falls in the international market, certainly your supply or your inflow of foreign exchange will reduce. And once that happens, you have huge demand for the US dollar that cannot be met. And when demand is far in excess of supply, prices will go up. Now, if prices go up for the Nigerian Naira vis-a-vis the US dollar, what it means is that goods and services in Nigeria will cost a lot more. So the average Nigerian will feel the impact directly. His purchasing power or her purchasing power will reduce because the 1 Naira in their pocket will buy less than it was able to buy before the devaluation of the Naira. So this is something that impacts on everybody, every Nigerian.
The devaluing here was said to be a measure taken to curb pain or to reduce the pain of the declining oil prices. Now, but the question will be, yes, we have one monoproduct economy. Should the measures have been taken to expand the economy before this devaluing of the Naira was done?
Certainly. This is something that even from when I was young, I studied economics. And even in the university classes, this is something we have been discussing. I graduated 24 years ago. So it is not something that has caught us by surprise. If you have an economy, if you have a nation that is as abundantly blessed as Nigeria is one of the most resource-rich nations, or the richest, or one of the richest that I know of. Now, the question is, why would we abandon all of the other options, and why would we put essentially all of our eggs into the crude oil basket? Now the chickens have come home to roost. So I think what we need to do is to take this as a wake-up call, look at how to reorganize and restructure our economy. We have a lot of other commodities that we have not dealt with.
If I may come in here. Now, the federal government has talked about other areas they are using to diversify the economy. They talked about going into agriculture.
Correct.
They talked about manufacturing. I mean,
Correct.
the automotive policy was set up and all of that.
Correct.
And they've talked about, okay, the power sector has also been worked on, and they're still bringing in investors for the power sector. Let's look at the position of the investors with this new decision by the CBN. How would that work out with the investors who are coming into all these other areas of the Nigerian economy?
Well, the reality is for every policy of government, and this is not peculiar to Nigeria, for every economic policy, there are always the positives and the negatives. Now, I understand why the Naira had to be devalued, because it was a situation we could not help. Once your foreign exchange earnings reduces, there is a limit to which you can use your foreign reserves to defend the currency. Because before you know it, you will deplete all of your reserves. So, without a doubt, government is trying to do multiple things on multiple fronts. Diversify the economy. Agriculture has and remains to a large extent the mainstay of this economy. The question is, what type of agriculture have we been practicing? It's been largely subsistence. It's been largely primary production. It is time to scale up to value addition. It is time to scale up to processing and storage and deployment of agricultural produce for various to fuel the manufacturing industry. We have an economy that is largely import dependent. A lot of the things we import, we have no business importing it. Now, so there is a lot going on at the same time, but the reality is we have a large population, close to 170 million people. So it does take a while for the impact of some of these things to reach everybody. But I think that there are some critical issues that government needs to face immediately. The cost of governance is way too high. We have no business spending 74% of our revenues on recurrent expenditure, paying salaries and wages. The government infrastructure is too large. So a lot of the monies that should have gone into productive processes, industrialization, the power revamp, a lot of that money is stuck paying salaries for people that it is quite difficult to quantify their output. So I think that is something we must look at.
You know, the implication of all of this is what we're trying to look at, and the way you have highlighted it already, the man and woman up there, they know that hard times are with them because of this particular move. But again, you just told us how long these have been in the books, even before you got out of school. It's always there in the books.
Correct.
How is it that we never took time out to look at them and see how we can actually, effect some of these changes that will bring about better economic, power for us as a people? A case in point is Bayo Rotimi we talked about this morning.
Right.
Can't pay salaries, and they're also talking about, well, they can't even think of getting revenue. Creativity now comes into question. How can we as a people or as a government help wriggle ourselves out of this mono-economic economy, rather, which we have been practicing since independence?
Well, I think it's a combination of two things. I think there has to be leadership on the part of the government. I also believe that we, the people, we, the followers, I just saw the DG of the SEC talk about the ingenuity and the creativity of the Nigerian. The average Nigerian has an entrepreneurial drive that is second to none. So the challenge has been, the entrepreneur has always been looking for an environment that supported that creativity. Now, what we need to do, I think it has to be a two-pronged approach. Government itself, our leadership, they have to, let's say, have an open mind. There are a few people inside of government, first-class materials, they understand the challenges, and they're doing their very best to resolve a lot of it. But there is a lot of politics inside of governance. So most of the times, or a lot of the times, all of the policies that come out of government do not always benefit the generality of the people. So the question is this: how do we hold government more accountable How do we ensure that our common wealth, which they manage on our behalf, they manage it with the fear of God, they manage it with honesty and integrity? I think those are some of the tasks that we must put our leadership through. And I'm not just talking about leadership at the federal level, at every level, from the federal to the state to the local government, there is a complete failure. So we as the citizens, first and foremost, a lot of individuals, private sector, nowadays are almost operating independent of governments, which is a bit of a tragedy because government should be an enabler of the private sector. So we must hold our political office holders more accountable. Fortunately, there is an election, a general election coming up. We need to task these people, come out and explain to us in concrete terms what steps you will take to ensure that our resources are judiciously utilized. Then we, the people also, we must have an optimistic view of life. You know, we have been through a lot in this country, but I still believe that Nigeria is probably one of the best or the greatest countries in the world. So the potential is there. We just need to be able to pull everything together. Government doing their own part, private sector also doing their own part.
But no doubt this move will affect the real sector.
Without a doubt. You know, the Chamber of Commerce or the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria recently were talking about the impact of devaluation as well as the fallout of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting at the CBN. Now, the monetary policy rate has moved up from 12 to 13%. Government continues its tight monetary policy. Now, the impact of that is the cost of accessing finance will go up. Now, if manufacturers have to pay more to get financing, it means that they need to pass those higher costs onto their own consumers, which means that the cost of goods and services will also go up. So without a doubt, we are in, and I think the minister has also said it, that we should prepare ourselves for some difficult times ahead. Now, is it completely hopeless? I do not think so, but we must brace ourselves. And I think government too should be a bit more pragmatic. We have oil prices, the revised medium-term economic framework benchmark oil prices at $73, right? The CBN coming out of the MPC meeting 2 days ago was saying that even though that $73 is overly optimistic because futures contracts for the next 6 months for oil or crude oil is priced at below $70.
So it might also drop.
We need to look at, without a doubt, we need to look at that. Exchange rate is pegged at 162 in the medium-term economic framework. Coming out of the MPC meeting 2 days ago, we've moved to 168. So I think there is a need for greater coordination because it engenders confidence if the various arms of government are singing essentially from the same hymn sheet. You know, so those are some of the things we need to address fairly quickly.